Today's a big day. I'm releasing a new song, a new single. More on that later. I want to teach you a simple but powerful song production formula that anybody can use. It's my favorite way to produce songs. I'll share exactly how it works and how I used it to produce my latest song. It all started with a challenge, actually 2 challenges. A bit of context. Inside my VIP membership, I give members a new challenge and masterclass every month. We usually alternate between production challenges where you record something and mixing challenges where you mix a song using tracks that I provide. Back in January, I decided to create a songwriting challenge. The masterclass for the month would be an over-the-shoulder video of me writing lyrics from scratch. And then the challenge would be to take those lyrics and turn them into a song. In other words, write music to go along with the lyrics. As I was trying to figure out what to write about, I started thinking about it was the new year, and a lot of folks are thinking in terms of like what they want to accomplish during the year. And if you're a creative person like us musicians, then you're very familiar with that creative struggle, that battle between the desire to create versus the fear of putting yourself out there. And with that in mind, I wrote these lyrics. Let me just read them to you real quickly. You know that there's something inside of you pumping. It's been there from birth. So it's a little bit of a limerick sort of a feel. It's got this AAB, CCB rhyme scheme that repeats itself. So the last line rhymes, and then the kind of these internal rhymes as well. So you know that there's something inside of you pumping. It's been there from birth. It beats with your heart. It sets you apart and tells of your worth. Some say it's a calling. It feels more like falling and you might get hurt. You cannot ignore it. There's no place to store it except in your work. The chorus, there's no other choice. The world needs your voice. You cannot escape it. There's no need to hide. Just swallow your pride and go out and face it. You pour yourself into it as if there's no end to it. That's a weird rhyme. And something appears. You take and you shape it, and sometimes you break it, and then come the tears, but you keep coming back and you counterattack the deafening fears. You strain and you fake it and finally make it while everyone cheers. So could you classify these lyrics as cheesy? Yep. I would nod my head and agree with you. There's some cheese factor to these lyrics. Couple things about that. One, in some ways, all lyrics are cheesy, at least to some people. And 2, even though it's a little bit on the cheesy side, something about this connects with me. Still, there's something about this. I've said this many times now. I write music so that I can hear myself singing the truth back to myself on days when I don't believe it. As I was working on this song, this gets really meta, I was facing that same fear that we face of, I like this, I like where this is going, I'm proud of this moves me to tears at points in working on the song. At the same time, I'm terrified to put this out because it's a little bit on the cheesy side. People might not like it, people might not get it, people might hate me because of the song, right? Those are the voices we have in our heads. So even in the midst of releasing a song about putting your work out there, even in the midst of that, I felt that same struggle. And the song itself encouraged me to continue with the song. This is getting very complicated and confusing, but this is the nature of the creative process. So after issuing the songwriting challenge to my members, I knew I wanted to try my hand at writing music for the song as well, which I did, which led to this. So this is the chart of the song that I wrote. If you're not familiar with Nashville numbers, the song is in the key of D. A 1 is a D, a 4 is a G, a 2 with a dash is an E minor, and so on and so forth. If there's a 5 in here, that's an A. If there's a 3 minor, that's an F sharp minor. If beyond the scope of what we're talking about today, but this is the song, the music that I wrote, I believe, the key of D, and I came up with this as the music. So I took that verse and I wrote a simple chord progression. It's just D, G, E minor, G, and then the chorus is slightly different. The chorus goes G, A, D over F sharp, B minor, A, and then repeats that sort of again. So very simple chord progression, but let me just play that little bit for you. Here's the verse into the chorus. You know that there's something inside of you pumping. It's been there from birth.
beats with your heart, and it sets you apart and tells of your worth. Some say it's a calling, but it feels more like falling, and you might get hurt. But you cannot ignore it, there's no place to store it except in your work, except in your work. There's no other choice, the world needs your voice, and you cannot escape it. There's no need to hide, just swallow your pride and go out and face it.
And it was that last thing. I remember so clearly. I was singing through this. I had come up with this melody, and I think I was in the shower just singing it over and over to myself. And I kept getting to the end of this lyric, because this is the lyric that I provided to the members. And it says, just go out, just swallow your pride and go out and face it. That's the end of it. And I kept hearing in my head, go. I would sing it, go out and face it. And then I just, in my head, I wanted to sing, go. Just tell them to go do it. And then that turned into that. That was probably my favorite part of the song, is that one word that I added. I sing it here.
Face it.
So I'm just singing a D, and then I sing that same word again, but I sing it as an E, which is the 9 of playing a D chord. So it has that little bit of dissonance that just felt delicious to me. And that was the first time when writing the song where the goosebumps came, which, by the way, this happens when you're working on a song, whether it's a soft ballad like this or a big rockin' tune. When your body responds to music, make note, because you're onto something good. That's why I hold this up all the time. I literally, one of the master classes recently when I did produce this song was called Go for the Goosebumps. Like, we're trying to get to that point. Anyway, so this is what I produced. And this is the song that I wrote, the music that I wrote for this. Quick pause here. I mentioned there were 2 challenges. The songwriting challenge was in January, but for February, I created a production challenge where I gave them the keyboard track, the vocal track, and the chord chart, and challenged them to produce the song however they wanted. It was a lot of fun. If that sounds like something you'd love to be a part of, you can try out VIP and even do these exact challenges for free for a full month. You can get started over at homestudiocorner.com/VIP. Okay, so now I want to show you exactly how I produced this song. I used my favorite method for production, which I call the triangle method. The triangle method is my favorite because it's built around a simple instrument vocal. That's the heart of the production. The song starts by getting a great sounding, in this instance, keyboard and vocal. And then that becomes the tip of the triangle, so to speak. So if you imagine a triangle on its side, almost looking like a crescendo, where the point is on the left and it grows that way. That's the way I'm thinking about producing this song. So the song begins with just keyboard and vocal, and then as the song continues, we add in elements to build the energy level section by section. Let me show you how I did it. So here's the full production. You can see we began with this keyboard down here and this vocal. The song begins essentially with just that. I added another kind of a pad over the top. Very lightly, just kind of continues throughout the song. But essentially the first verse is just a keyboard and a vocal. And then every time we get to a new section, we start to contemplate, what, if anything, can I add here to take it up a notch, give it an extra level? The beauty of this is you can just focus for the first part of your journey on getting a great sounding single instrument and vocal. And then once you have that in place, you can release it that way. I could release this as just a Fender Rhodes and my voice, and that could be fine. And some songs need that. But I knew I wanted to produce this more. I had lots of ideas of places I wanted to take it, especially the bridge, which I'll show you later. And I knew I wanted to produce it more than just the instrument and the vocal. That's fine, but I don't do that as much anymore because I enjoy this so much. So what did I add? Well, when the chorus came in, I decided to add 2 elements. The first was bass. Everybody loves bass, so I brought in bass to come in at the chorus. Big, deep, low bass, just playing very simple, just playing the notes from the chord chart.
Wrapped in your work. There's no other choice. The world needs your voice, and you cannot.
Okay, no big deal, right? We added bass. Great. But that's one new thing. So one of the things that the concepts to keep in mind when you're doing this approach, there's kind of 2 things to keep in mind. The first is balance. And there are 3 types of balance. There's volume balance. That's a given. Things need to be balanced volume-wise. The beginning of the song needs to be loud enough, but there needs to be room to let it grow in volume as we continue. There's panning or stereo balance. If we add something on the left, we want to eventually add something on the right to balance that out. And then there's frequency balance. If we only add low-end things, the whole mix will be low-end heavy. We want to try to distribute the frequencies over the course of the song. And in this song, it starts off dark and gets brighter as the song goes. I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll get to that when we get to the bridge. So we brought in first verse, just a keyboard, then we're adding in bass, and then for the turn, we add in a few more things. So you'll note, let me zoom in on these waveforms. By the way, people ask me all the time, Joe, why are your tracks all clipping? They're not. It's just zoomed in so we can see it clearly from here. So at the turn, which is what I call the space between the chorus and verse 2, we're adding in a few more things. The first being a simple drum beat. The second being an electric guitar, in this instance a Strat, and then that organ that I talked about on the left. So we're adding in these 3 elements to what we already had. You'll notice the tone of those 2, the guitar and the organ, I've made their tones be fairly similar, and I pan them left and right. So they're complementing each other nicely. So when we get to the end of that chorus, we're going from just bass and keyboard to now a few more instruments. It's now feeling a bit fuller. It feels like there's this crescendo happening. Still very like understated and underproduced. Like we're not going nuts here. It's literally just a 4 on the floor kick drum sound, but we've now entered a new era. It's a little bit different, and we're going into verse 2. And this kind of goes to my second point. I talked about the 3 types of balance. The second principle that I think about all the time is what I call the verse 2 rule, and that is every section of your song should be different from the previous version of that section. I call it the verse 2 rule because verse 2 is a simple place where you can apply this. I want my verse 2 to sound different from my verse 1. It could be just one thing that's different. But if I go listen to verse 2 and everything is exactly the same from a production standpoint, to me, that feels like a missed opportunity. There should be something different there. And I feel the same for chorus 2 and chorus 3 if there's a third chorus. I want each of them to have their own unique spin. Is that a rule you have to follow? No. But if you go listen to your favorite albums, I bet you'll hear this more often than not. Verse 2 has something different from verse 1. It could be a small difference, could be a big difference. In this instance, it's pretty big because we've added in a bunch of instruments. But sometimes it could be as simple as just adding one shaken tambourine part to make verse 2 stand out. And then you'll see that kind of continue as we go. So the turn is really where that change happens. Nothing really happens when we get into verse 2. It just continues.
You pour yourself into it as if there's no end to it. Something appears.
So now we're going into the chorus, and not much happens going into this chorus. It's still different from the first chorus because remember, the first chorus had just bass. So as we get into chorus 2, we're now just continuing with what we created. We've got this reverse bass that I added to get into the chorus, but otherwise it's the same instruments we've heard in verse 2.
There's no other choice. The world needs your voice, and you cannot escape it. There's no need to hide.
So like one great point is cannot escape it. The first time I sing cannot escape it, nothing really happens. Super chill. This time we've got that organ on the left that goes, woo.
There's no
which makes me super happy. So that the two verses, they're similar, but they're different, right? This one's bigger. And we are, what, a couple minutes into the song, and it still hasn't gotten to its fullest point yet. We're doing this crescendo thing. The triangle is getting bigger, or you could probably better call it a crescendo marker. We're getting bigger. You can see a lot of stuff is about to come in. I get goosebumps every time. This is my favorite. This is my favorite. I love to do this. Now, if you saw, I did a video a couple of weeks back where I was producing this section of this very song. And I showed you some of the things that I did. The first thing that I added in was just more percussion. So instead of just the drum beat with the kick drum, we're now adding in some shaker and a tom hit that hits on the eighth notes. And then as this section progresses, we end up adding even more percussion. There's a cymbal swell, and then there's some mouth percussion where I go with my mouth, and then there's some tambourine hits as well. Is it massive? No. This song's not going to be massive in that sense. But this is decidedly bigger than before when it was just a kick drum. And that's one example. This section is really long. And the idea was it's just a very kind of repetitive vamp of the same chord progression. And I wanted to just continue to add things and build things as we go. And the very first thing I added was all these purple background vocals. And so it's 6 background vocals, but they're really just 3 parts, each in pairs, one left and one right. So as we're going into this bridge section, I just started to add each of these background vocals, which I'll play for you now. So once all the background vocals are in, then it just continues to vamp. The chord progression changes a little bit. Instead of playing the 1, the D, it plays a D over F sharp, 1/3, which just adds a different element to it. And in my mind, when I was first recording it, I added these extra 8 bars, I think 8, just to kind of let it vamp and let it continue to build. And that new progression felt really cool. And that's where I add in the extra percussion and things like that. And that's a lot of what I did in that other video. So other elements that come in on this bridge are acoustic guitars, just a left and a right. Slightly different rhythms for each, just to make it sound a little more different and have a little more width to it. And then I add in a bunch of guitars. So the guitars kind of come in phases. The first is just a simple, I think this is just simple like ambient guitar. Not even in tune, but it's buried, it's fine. And just keep adding in guitar. So there's a Strat on the right. Just playing kind of 2 notes at a time. And then this is, I think, the more ambient guitar. I think this one is up the middle. I mean, real simple. I like to add in simple parts, multiple of them, versus just one big part. Sometimes that works really well. And then this telly, what's this telly doing? Yeah, the telly just is meant to kind of add to what the acoustics were already doing. And then another Strat part comes in halfway through this first, if you think of it in 4 sections, or maybe 3 sections. There's the first part, the second part, and then the third part over here where it says solo. This Strat part comes in and really becomes kind of an integral part to just another kind of melodic piece that comes in. Again, not an award-winning virtuoso guitar part, but just something simple that comes in, and they all kind of add up together to create this to me, very fun and interesting piece of music. My original intention was to just continue to let that kind of just group vocal thing just vamp over the second half of this. And I eventually realized, you know what? I got to add a solo to it. So I wrote a guitar solo part to go over the second section. So instead of it feeling like a very, very long just kind of vamp, it vamps for a while, it builds until it builds to kind of its fullest with all the background vocals are in, all the other instruments are in, and then we add in a solo part that just brings in some melody to go along with what's happening. And that's what that sounds like here. Gets that last four measures. There's something about the way it kind of feels like it's swirling emotionally and kind of builds up to that high note on the guitar and everything. Like we've kind of heard it. We're used to what everything is happening. It just now, listen to this for the umpteenth, thousandth time, I get emotional and tear up just a little bit. I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm saying this is why we make music. Even though some people are going to listen to this and say, nah, it's cheesy, it's not my thing. That's fine. It connects with me, and I'm guessing it's going to connect with one other human on the planet. Even if it doesn't, it connects with me, and it's something I love and am proud of, even though, yeah, it's a little on the cheesy side, but I just like it. And so then the final section is the final chorus, which we make different. We actually it's a little bit like the first and the second chorus. Really, it's more like the first chorus. It goes back to its roots, just vocal and keyboard.
There's no other choice. The world needs your voice, and you cannot escape it. There's no need to hide.
It's got this sweet interplay of the guitar on the right, the Rhodes up the middle, and then a few instruments come back in for the outro. So just to like a nod to some of the things that have happened before, and to let it go through the end, and then there's like a final retard of the parts. They slow down and play the final chord together. All right, that's the approach. To summarize, start with just a vocal and an instrument, and then see how you can build it. Some songs might not work with this approach. I would recommend not using this approach every time, because some songs need to start off big, and then maybe the energy drops and builds, and maybe goes up and down. Like there's like this dynamic thing happening. Some songs just need to be everybody in from start to finish. There's lots of different ways to kind of manage that energy flow, but especially if you're new and you're used to doing stuff with just you and one instrument, this is a great way to expand stuff perhaps that you've already recorded and make it bigger without losing that soul that's in the middle. And honestly, this never gets old, and I've been doing this for a very long time. If you want to hear this song in its entirety, I've uploaded it as its own separate video here, and you can listen to the official final mastered release there. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.